This was the scene last night as hundreds of mostly young white men waving tiki torches marched on the grounds of the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. They chanted slogans like, "Jew will not replace us," true story, and "White Lives Matter," along with the known Nazi phrase, "blood and soil." The march ended in skirmishes with counter-protesters, and no one was seriously injured. And today, white nationalist so-called alt-right groups are expected to gather in Charlottesville again for a Unite the Right rally, with the stated goal of saving a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. And joining me now is the Reverend Tracy Blackman of the United Church of Christ. Reverend Blackman, thank you so much for being here. Now, I know you were inside of a church last night when these white nationalist marchers began converging on that church at the University of Virginia campus. I want to play for you a little bit of sound of what they did last night, and then I want you to describe for us what you saw. So let's listen to that a little bit. Now, for those who can't really understand what they're saying blood and soil, which happens to have been the slogan of the Nazi Party's Department of Agriculture in 1930s Germany. The actual Nazis of Germany, that was their agricultural department slogan. Tell me your impressions being inside that church last night.
Well, thank you for having me on, Joy. The service last night was intended to be a moment of motivation, a moment of prayer, and a moment of encouragement for people who wanted to provide a faithful witness of love, anticipating today's march. The schedule for the Nazi and the fascist example was supposed to be today and not last night. So we gathered in a standing room only, maximum capacity crowd to give a word of encouragement. I was invited in to give a speech to that regard. And as we were closing down, I gotta go.
Oh my goodness, I don't know what is happening here. I don't know what just happened there with our guest. But we're going to try to find out what happened. And she was standing at the location where it looks like now violence has broken out among the crowd. And for those who are unfamiliar with what's going on today in Charlottesville, we want to make sure that our producers check on Reverend Blackman and make sure that she's okay. If somebody could please text her. There's a rally that's being held. It's supposed to happen at Emancipation Park, which used to be Robert E. Lee Park, and it's home to a statue of the Confederate General Robert E. Lee in Charlottesville. The statue was slated to be removed. There was a vote of the city council there. The vice mayor of Charlottesville is black and is the only black member of city leadership, and was seen as the person who spearheaded the removal of that statue, even though it was really activists in Charlottesville that wanted it removed. There was a vote, a very narrow vote, to remove the statue. Today was supposed to be a Unite the Right, quote, rally in defense of the statue. There have been court proceedings over the statue. Richard Spencer, the known white supremacist, who you've probably heard of, is very active on Twitter, who was a self-described mentor to Stephen Miller, who is one of the White House advisors, got involved in it, and there was this idea of bringing together so-called alt-right groups, but it also included groups like the Klan, local white supremacist groups, all converging on Charlottesville today to protest the removal of that statue. Did my producer just tell me that Reverend Blackman is okay? Because she... Okay, we're trying to get her back on the phone. We're trying to get Reverend Blackman back on the phone. Okay, this is video from just moments ago in Charlottesville, Virginia, where white nationalists are clashing with counter-protesters at Emancipation Park. All right, oh, this is actually live pictures now. So we're looking at it live. You can see that there is a lot of object throwing. Apparently, according to one of our previous guests, Reverend Tracy Blackman, the white nationalist groups are throwing full bottles of water. Earlier, they used brass knuckles and bats to attack members of the clergy, to attack members of anti-fascist groups who've come out to march against them, and against members of Black Lives Matter, all of whom have converged on this park and now spilled into the street, a nearby corner near the University of Virginia to try to counter this, what they're calling Unite the Right rally, a violent rally at that. Join me now, Max Booth, Senior Fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, Kurt Bardella, former media consultant for Breitbart.com, Daily Beast politics reporter Aswin Subasang, and former chief White House ethics lawyer, President George W. Bush, Richard Painter. Richard, I'm going to start with you. You've been tweeting about this, and you've had some pretty strong words for those who are out there. If you could reiterate those for our audience.
Well, this is very similar to what happened on the streets of Germany in the early 1930s. This is the face of fascism in the United States. And it is directly the responsibility of this administration in the White House. I've been a Republican for 30 years, but we are the party of Abraham Lincoln and George W. Bush, Ronald Reagan. We are not the party of fascism in America, and we are going to have to reject this. We need to demand today that President Trump fire Sebastian Gorka, Steve Bannon, all the other alt-right neo-fascists in his White House. This is Breitbart News, what you are watching on the streets of Charlottesville. And I, as a Republican, I will remain a Republican, but I will not support fascism, and I will call for the impeachment of this president if he does not fire the neo-fascists in his White House immediately.
And Aswin, is the...
Welcome back, everybody. At half past the hour, I'm Alex Wood here at MSNBC World Headquarters. For those of you looking for the show Velshi and Rule, that will air later on this afternoon, we are staying on the air with this breaking news from Charlottesville, Virginia. As you are seeing a profound police presence, it is stronger than what we have been able to capture with our cameras since earlier in this day, when things got very heated as a result of a rally that was supported by white nationalists, white supremacists, members of the KKK, all trying to march to Emancipation Park, where their noon rally, which has now been canceled due to unlawful assembly rulings, they were protesting the removal of the Robert E. Lee statue there. There were all sorts of people coming out in force as well, supporting anti-fascism, and that is when things got very heated. This is a very strong police presence right now. This is the Virginia State Police. We've also seen a presence of the Charlottesville City Police, and to a degree, the University of Virginia Campus Police. We know that one of those officers was injured earlier today, and it's not hard to see why. Some of the pictures we have been able to show you, you have seen people throwing bottles, rocks. There have been baseball bats used to beat people back. It has been pretty horrific and quite violent as we look at this from just moments ago. Won't let